Hello, and welcome back to the Short Vol Show Live, where we are offering continuing coverage of the markets in meltdown. I wanted to come on. I know folks are busy, but hopefully, if you're not watching this now, you can catch it at some other point during the day. We're approaching the U.S. Open right now. There's 7 minutes to the Open, and it seems highly likely we are currently in circuit breakers. That meaning that the markets were limit down over the night session, and we've been stuck in a limit down situation for since early yesterday evening. If I get out of the way here, you can see that. And the anticipation is that the next circuit breaker, once the U.S. markets open, if we are down another 2%, the circuits will engage again, and it's highly likely that we go into a circuit limit down situation immediately on the open here, and then we'd have to wait another 15 minutes to restart the markets again, and then the next limit would be down 13%, and if for some reason we were down a total of 20% during the day, then we would pause for the day session. A couple things I wanted to talk with you about. One of them is the prospect of U.S. markets being closed, like for a week or 2 weeks, some sort of thing like that. And although this seems, it seemed unlikely a few days ago, it's seeming more and more likely that something like that may happen to the U.S. market. So my suggestion to you would be to plan on that happening. If it doesn't happen, then all the better, but plan on that happening. And so the most important thing to focus on is for those of you who have options expiring in the next 2 weeks. And my advice to you would be to get out of those trades. Now, if if it's some position on that you really don't want to get out of, then I would suggest rolling it out a month or more. But you don't really want to be in the situation where stuff is halted for a week and you don't know what's going on. I mean, ultimately, what would happen is they would settle the options at the price of the stock on the expiration. However, to have your account just sort of in limbo for weeks and the whole stress of it, it would probably make sense to get out of any weekly options that you have expiring in the next 2 weeks. Thomas Hurley says massive short in XOM. Well, that's good. Sounds good. TVIX 500. Amazing times we have here. TVIX 500 right now. Like a lot of people, when we are limit down all night, I've been watching the Nikkei. The symbol is NKD, and it at least gives you some indication of what's going on in the rest of the world. So if I get out of the way here, we can pull up the Nikkei, and we can see that selling did increase in the last couple hours in the Nikkei here. You can see it down. Just to give yourself some perspective here, folks. I know it seems like the end of the world and all that stuff, but this virus is going to run its course. It has peaked already in Asia. It will peak soon in Europe, and then it will peak in the United States at some point, and life will go on. So I know everybody is pretty hyped up, but life will continue. Take care of your family, stay safe, try and relax. This is not, we see so many movies on like the zombie apocalypse and all this stuff, but this is not the zombie apocalypse, and life is going to go on. I want to highlight gold for a second for you because, there's been hundreds, if not thousands of videos made about how, you should save gold, you should buy gold and buy precious metals because when, the end of the world comes, it's going to be so valuable and whatnot. And I think there's been a lot of shock among many people that gold has gone down in this situation. We're finding that really cash is king, right? People are selling whatever they can to get cash. So things that you thought were going to like explode, such as gold, or Bitcoin really haven't exploded. In fact, they're down as people just move to cash in whatever they can. Now, of course, this isn't the same situation as like the doomsday situation that the gold hoarders and the silver hoarders talk about is one where like the banking system breaks down and fiat currency is no longer of use. What we've seen in this situation is kind of the opposite. Fiat currency has become king. There is an article I was just reading that banks in New York are running out of $100 bills. Now, when the Fed stimulates the economy like they've done by buying treasuries, what this does is it allows banks to loan more money, and that's actually a good thing. And the knee-jerk reactions from the market aside, allowing banks to have liquidity and money to loan out is actually a helpful thing and will help the economy. I had a viewer send me an article about how the Fed works. It's many of you will know this stuff already, but for those of you who might like a little refresher, I'm going to post something about this article down below. Let me see if I can get it here. And just talking about the way the Fed works and what it means when the government buys a bunch of treasuries and how that translates into helpful stuff for the economy. So I'm just going to put a link from this viewer, Kyle Foster. Thanks so much for posting that. I'm going to put a link to this in the chat here, and you can check that out. Let's see, it doesn't fit in the chat, so I'll post it at the bottom of the video. At the end is this article on the Fed and how it works. All right, so I know there's a lot of nervousness out there, and but believe me, this crisis is going to end at some point. We're in the throes of it right now, and we expect to see cases in the United States, a lot more cases come. We don't know exactly what's going to happen, but we do know that this too will pass. Let's take a look at the VIX futures. Now, we need to remember that the primary VIX future right now is the April one. There is going to be a bunch of stuff about the March one because we're coming into expiration, but the April future is really key to everything right now as far as UVXY, TVIX, etc. And that future is up around 55 currently. Let me get out of the way and we'll take a look at the VIX futures. Now remember, we're almost right before expiration, so even with the VIX not showing, not printing a number right this moment because of the halt, the front month future is going to give you a pretty good indication of around where the VIX will open. And I would expect that front month future to be within 5 points of the actual VIX. As we get closer and closer to expiration, it will follow it even more closely. And that future currently 69. On the open of futures last night, this number was hovering around 60, but it's risen over the night session. So this is kind of an indication. We've been limit down the whole time, but we can see the VIX futures moving higher even though we were limit down. And that gives us an indication that we're going to move down farther as this VIX future rises here. If we look at the Nikkei once again, we can see the action since 1 in the morning here really. Well, this is actually since Sunday afternoon. We can see it continuing to move lower as all financial markets anticipating the U.S. Having a big down day. As I said in last night's program, the action so far in the U.S. up until the circuit breaker is really just giving back the rally we had in the afternoon on Friday. If you look at this chart, that illustrates that pretty well. We can see this is 14 being 2 o'clock, and this big volume right there would be the close on Friday. So we can see that we're just back, even though it is a limit down situation, it's just giving back what we were up on Friday. So the interesting part would be to see how much lower we go from here. When we do look at TQQQs, we can see Triple Q futures already down significantly. Now they're locked with NASDAQ right now. NASDAQ showing down 519 as we are open now for trading, and we are, I believe, halted limit down another time here as we open trading. So that was pretty much expected that we'd be halted limit down again. So we will wait 15 minutes for things to reopen, and we'll see if we hit that 13% limit down. So we went limit down very quickly right then as I was talking. So currently we are in a holding pattern with the markets down 7%. As far as where I am, I'm in Cape Cod in the United States. The governor here announced that you can't have public gatherings more than 25 people. Restaurants have been closed. You can only get takeout from restaurants now. And really, the U.S. playing catch up here, trying to follow the example of other countries by limiting movement of people to try to just really slow down the spread of things. It seems like the strategy is the slower we can have things unfold, the more prepared we'll be, and we can handle individual cases better that way. So financial markets in turmoil. We don't know. There's rumors swirling all over the place. There's rumors of more quarantines. There's rumors of the markets potentially shutting down for a little while. My advice would be, if you do have front week positions that in options, that you either try to roll them or just close them for now. So just to avoid the stress of the markets closing. Obviously, the markets closing would affect the the realized historical volatility of things, because stuff's not moving when it's closed. And so some people are considering strategies of selling like closer strangles, things like that. That would be selling options in the next 2 weeks, in that if it's closed, stuff can't move. Selling out of the money calls or out of the money puts. That seems like an interesting idea for a trade. I'm not going to recommend people do anything like that, but for those of you who are risk takers, there may be opportunity. If we are closed for 2 weeks, then it's a home run for people who are short stuff. If you do own premium, remember you can't do anything to finance that long. Usually when we have long positions and options, our hope is that the stuff will move around back and forth, and we can maybe buy something lower, sell it a little higher. In the meantime, if markets close, that will not be possible. Mostly my message to everybody is just to stay safe, focus on your family, focus on protecting yourself, because there's going to be opportunity once this is all over, and we want to be there to trade it. And the only way to be there and trade it is to stay solvent through this period. So now gold looking down $62. So this is like so many hundreds of videos by like people, proponents of buying gold, are kind of proven false by what's happened in this down move here in gold. Gold no longer seen as a safety, because as illustrated here, when stuff goes really bad, people just want to get out of any assets to get cash, and the dollar remaining strong again. Now, the premise of a lot of the gold hoarders and whatnot has always been that the dollar would be worthless at some point and you'd be able to turn gold in. What we've seen is actually the opposite, the dollar becoming more valuable and people wanting to hoard dollars. So that is an interesting dynamic. Same thing with the Bitcoin. We've seen people just a lot of people owning Bitcoin. It was like an extra type of investment on the side, and people getting out of these extra investments to turn them into cash. All right, so let's look at some market headlines, and I'm going to go to Drudge Report for that. There's been instances of hoarding and price gouging. I read an article today about a guy who went around and bought out all the stores of hand sanitizer and was going to try to sell it on eBay and price gouge people. And, the story was broke by a newspaper, and he received death threats and all this stuff. So, try to be kind to your fellow human beings, and this is not a time where you're trying to make a profit on other people's misery. I don't think that's a cool thing. Certainly, shorting a stock is not like making a profit on other people's misery. It's any market activity that you have during these crazy times is actually providing liquidity, and it's the lubrication that helps the economy keep going. It's not any trader's fault or responsibility to hold up the market. And you coming in, even if it's with a sale, is providing liquidity and is providing really a service if you're staying and trading during these wild times. So don't feel guilty about any trades you put on. I was talking with somebody who was selling very expensive puts and kind of feeling guilty about it. Thing is you are providing liquidity and you are helping the situation out if you are there trading through this craziness. So don't feel guilty. Yes, I work with a bunch of people who are new to the United States in my side job, and to a person, people have come up to me in the last couple of days and said, I think I should start a brokerage account. I think it's time to buy something when we're down here. And if you can extricate yourself from the immediate situation in front of you and think about it, this is an opportunity here to buy many stocks at a deep discount. And we know that this is not going to last forever. We know that 6 months from now, this is not going to still be here, this virus. So try to have a longer perspective. I know a lot of people have lost money and it's not pleasant. But I fear that people are going to jump in and try to get short at some point. I feel that like a lot of times retail is like a little bit behind the curve, and that people see other people around are going to start to see other people around them who have shorted the market and made money, and people are going to get short and get crushed. I worry about that a lot. When markets at all-time highs, it's really not the time to buy, and when markets are way, way down, it's really not the time to sell. I think those are just basic rules of thumb. So don't get, I understand there's day traders out there who, are trying to make a quick buck back and forth, but don't get upside down too much and, get way short the market or something, because inevitably things are going to go back up. Most of the time markets rally. So just keep that in the back of your head when you're trading. I would hope to be a voice of calm in these crazy times. We need to stay calm and realize that there's other more important things in life than the market. So make sure that your family's okay. Call your mom and dad. And this will pass. This will be over with. We will reach the highs in volatility. I was saying that I thought we had reached the highs in volatility. We might make a new high. It looks possible that we'd make a new high today. I'm not sure of that or not, but we are close to the end because option prices are almost pricing in the kind of moves we're having now, and these kind of moves can't go on forever. So we are near a top or a bottom, depending on which way you look at it. A top in volatility, a bottom in the market at some point here. That will come. Try to keep calm, keep happy. Thanks for watching, and I will check in with you very shortly. Until then, see you soon.